Welcome to pre-calculus. All right, let's go ahead and open up our books. We're going to go ahead and start with a new chapter. We're going to ignore the last chapter. We're going to go ahead and continue on with our trig portion of pre-calculus. So to know the basics, we're going to deal with angle measurements. First thing is the angle measurement itself. They have a terminal side and the initial side. So for example, 30 degrees. This will be the initial because it starts in the bottom and it goes up to here, which will be the terminal side. 180 is in terms of radians. 1 radian, to find the radians, it's 180 divided by whatever that radians is, or whatever the measurement is. And then for 1 degree, that is equal to radians divided by 180. So now here, and they have a measurement of what 1 degree is. Yeah. So now, let's go ahead and do conversion. So degree to radius. In the last lesson, I feel like this lesson should have been first before we did all the graphs. But degrees and radians, they are very similar. I think of radians as fractions. Here we have degree to radians. So if we have 35 degrees, to convert it to radians, it's your degrees times radians divided by 180, and you include the word radians. Here, it's just like that. So 60 degrees to radians. We want it in terms of radians over something. Again, it's not pi, it's considered radians. So it's the degrees, 60, times radians over 180. If you multiply, especially when you're multiplying fractions, you're always multiplying the numerator, you get 60 radians over 180. And for me, I like to think of it as a fraction, 60 over 180. If you have 60 over 180 as a fraction, you can put it in your calculator to simplify it, or 60 can go into 180 3 times. So you have 1/3, but you have to include that radians here because you never get rid of it. Always have it in terms of radians no matter what. So then your answer would be radians over 3, and you have to include the word radians into it. And that would be 60 degrees in terms of radians. Right? Over 3, yeah. All right, next one, B, radians over 6 to degrees. So now we have the radians version. We're going to go ahead and convert it to degrees. So you have whatever your radians is, which is radians over 6, and we're going to multiply it by 180 divided by radians. Before we go ahead and multiply, these two radians cancel out. And that's what you want because we're putting everything in terms of degrees. Then you have 180 divided by 6, and that's your fraction. Now, to simplify that, you end up with 30. Include that little dot for degrees, and it's considered 30 degrees. You have that in your unit circle, but it's good to understand how to convert it. For me, what I do is I do 180 divided by 6. You don't even have to do any of this. You can just do radians, 180 divided by 6, and you automatically get the answer. But the book shows you this way. Example 2, we're going to deal with coterminal angles. What coterminal angles mean is, for example, you have 30. If you were to add another 360, because the whole circle is 360, there are more angles than just 360. If you were to add another 360 to it, and it goes back around again, it would be 390 degrees. They share the same side. So this is 30. It's also known as 390. Or you can subtract it, and you can find a different measurement. So here, they are angles that share the same side. They coincide. So it's 30, it's also 390, it's also etc., etc. There's multiple numbers. It's an infinite number of different degrees. Here, we have 2 ways we can do it. We can either add 360 to the original angle, or you can add by 2 radians, depending on how they give it to you, or you can subtract by 360. We can find a negative coterminal angle, or subtract by 2 radians. So here we have 30. They want us to find different angles that we can have. We can do a couple things. We can add by 360. If we add 30 into 360, we get 390. So that's 1 coterminal angle. If we add 360 again, so let's say from 390, let's add another 360. We end up with 750 degrees. So 30, 390, 750, they are all coterminal angles. They all share the same side of this angle right there. Another way is subtracting. Let's do 30 minus 360. 30 minus 360 is negative 330. that angle also coincides with 750, with 390, with 30. Also, let's go ahead and subtract even more. Negative 330, so it's a negative. Minus 360, we're subtracting again. We end up with negative 690. Those are 4 possible answers. Depends on your work. I don't know if they say 2 or 4. Just make sure you follow what they say. You don't have to write all of them because, again, there's infinite number of degrees. Here, they gave us a measurement is radians over 3. So we have to keep it in terms of radians. Here, what I could do to find it, I'm only going to do 2. I'm going to add by 2 radians. So we have radians over 3. I'm going to add by 2 radians. When you see this, I always think of fractions. When you add fractions, you have to make sure their denominator is the same. So then I have radians over 3 plus 6 radians over 3. If I were to add that, just like a fraction, I get 7 radians over 3. Again, you don't add the denominators. And that's one of them. That's your positive coterminal angle. Let's find another one by subtracting. Radians over 3 minus 2 radians. Again, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, you have to make sure their denominator is the same. The common denominator is 3. I have radians over 3 minus 6 radians over 3. And if I subtract them, I get negative 5 radians over 3. And that would be my answer there. So the 2 I have is 7 radians over 3 and negative 5 radians over 3. Again, there's a lot more than just those 2, but you just need to know those 2. The last one is example 3. This is where they want a specific kind. They give you a huge degree. So if I were to move this here, I have here, find an angle with measures between 0 and 360. That's why I have here. So it's between 0 and 360. That is coterminal with the angle measure of 1,290 degrees. So we have the 1,290 degrees. We want to find a coterminal angle between 0 and 360. So what you do, we subtract. So we subtract by 360. We end up with 930. That's now within the limit of these 2 numbers. I subtract again. 930 minus 360. I end up with 570. Again, not between the 2 limits there. I keep on subtracting. 570 minus 360 again. And I get 210 degrees. And that is your answer because you want it between 0 and 360 degrees. So now they're asking you for a specific kind with a huge number, but it's very easy. All you do is add or subtract 360 or by adding or subtracting 2 radians. Have any more questions? Make sure you look down here. You do have homework. Make sure you do it. It's only a couple problems. I think you guys will be fine. If you guys have any questions, again, just make sure you can FaceTime me, you can email me, you can message me. There's so many different ways. We have technology for me to help you. Have a good day.